In this video, I will solve 4 questions from exercise 1C, and this exercise is from book 2, Syllabus D, first chapter from the same book 2. And the question number 2 is, if 8 men can build a bridge in 12 days, find the time taken for 6 men to build the same bridge. So, to solve this question, I have two quantities in this question. The first quantity is men and the second quantity is days, right? So I will make two columns. The first column will be related to number of men and the second will be related to number of days. If 8 men can build a bridge in 12 days, find the time taken for 6 men to build the same bridge. So my requirement is to find out the number of days if we have 6 men, right? So to solve this question, first of all, it will be very necessary to create a relationship between men and days. So we have to create an appropriate relationship that when the number of men decreases, the number of days will definitely increase. So there is an inverse proportion between the number of men and the number of days. So whenever we have an inverse proportion between two quantities, we'll solve these inverse proportions type of questions straight with the help of this technique. Okay, I will multiply 8 by 12 and then I will equate it with the product of 6 and x, right? So 8 multiplied by 12 will be divided by 6 to get the value of x. 6 times 2 is 12 and x will be equals to the product of 8 and 2. So the number of days will be 16 days. It means 6 men can build the same bridge in 16 days. Okay, and as you can see that when the number of men decreases, the number of men decreases, the number of days increases. So this is the increased number of days, 16, right? And the second question, number of question, is if q is inversely proportional to p and q is 0.25 when p is 2, express or find q in terms of p. This is the first requirement. So first of all, I will create a relationship that q is inversely proportional to p. So when we have that, we have already solved some questions related to direct proportion, that whenever we have a direct proportion between two quantities, we will write the direct proportional relationship without any fraction, right? But whenever we have an inverse proportion, we will write inverse proportion with a fractional technique. Okay, so q is inversely proportional to 1 upon p, and after creating a relationship, I have to remove the sign of proportionality, and that is q is equal to k upon p, right? Because we are solving questions related to inverse proportion, so we have a very different technique over here, right? So q is equals to k upon p, and to find the value of k, I will use q is 0.25 is equals to k upon p. P is 2. I will multiply this 0.25 with 2 to find the value of k, and the k will be equals to 0.25 times 2, that is equals to 0.5, right? And after having the value of k, I will substitute this value of k in my equation, right? So q will be equals to 0.5 upon p. Okay, and then I will use the same equation, that is q is equals to 0.5 upon p, to solve the second requirement. My second requirement is to find out the value of q and p is 5. So q is equals to 0.5 upon 5, and when I remove this decimal, it becomes 5, but I have to write 0 in the denominator. So 5 times 10 is 50, and it will be equals to 1 upon 10. And if you want to write the answer of q in decimal, it is equals to 0.1, right? And the third requirement of this question, we are supposed to find out the value of P when Q is 0.2. So the equation is Q is equals to 0.5 upon P, and we are supposed to find out the value of P. So I will substitute Q in place of, means 0.2 in place of Q, and it is equals to 0.5 upon P, and the next step will be equals to the cross multiplication, that P will shift to the left side and 0.2 will shift to the right hand side, right? So P will be equals to 0.5 upon 0.2, and the value of P after removing this decimal, it becomes 5 upon 2, and in decimal it is equals to 2.5. so the value of Q is 0.1 or 1 upon 10, both are right. Okay, and the P is, you can also state 5 upon 2, or you can, if you want to write this answer 5 upon 2 into the mixed fraction, it will be equals to 2 whole 1 upon 2, or in the decimal it is equals to 2.5, right? And the next question is, if we have 35 workers are employed to complete a project in 16 days, and before the project starts, the boss of the company is told that he needs to complete the project in 14 days, right? And how many more workers does he need to employ in order to complete the project in time, right? So we have two quantities again. The first is workers, number of workers, and the second quantity is days, right? So I will write number of workers as a first quantity, and the second quantity will be number of days. So if we have 35 workers and they can complete the project in 16 days, and if and according to the given criteria, the boss of the company is told that he needs to complete the project in 14 days. So how many more workers does he need to employ? So first of all, I will find out the number of workers that who can complete the project in 14 days first of all, and again it's an inverse relation, so I will not go with the cross multiplication technique, because it is not a direct proportion, right? So we have inverse proportion between the number of days and number of workers, right? So 35 will multiply with 16, and it is equals to x times 14, and 35 times 16 upon 14, that is equals to x, and the value of x will be equals to 7 times 2, 75, 2128, 85 is 40. So the number of workers is 40, right? So it means 40 workers can complete the project in 14 days. So but my requirement is to find out how many more workers. So if 40 workers are needed, and I have already 35 workers at the so it means 5 more workers are needed to complete in order to complete the project, right? And the last question is, at a sports camp there is sufficient food for 72 athletes to last 6 days. Again, days and number of athletes, right? So number of athletes and the days, right? So these are two quantities in the question. So if 72 workers, if there is sufficient food for 72 athletes to last 6 days, and if 18 athletes are absent from the camp, so if I subtract 18 athletes from 72, 54 workers, athletes are in the camp right now, sick. Okay, and how many more days can the food last for other athletes? So my requirement is to find out the number of days, and again it's an inverse, because when the number of athletes decreases, the number of days definitely increase, right? So again, inverse relationship. So I will not go with the cross multiplication. So 72 times 6 is equals to x times 54, and 72 times 6 upon 54, it is equals to x, and 6 times 1, 6, 9 is 54, 9, 1, 9, 8 is 72. So x is equals to 8. It means the food the food can last for other athletes, means 54 athletes for 8 days. So how many more days? My requirement is to find out how many more days. So I have to subtract 6 days from 8 days, so 2 more days I will get 2 more days. So the food lasts 2 more days for the other athletes, right? And you have again assignment, okay, from the same exercise, exercise 1C, and the assignment is you are supposed to solve question number 1, 3, 6, 8 and question number 9 from the same exercise, that is 1C, and from book 2, right? Thank you very much.